Bienvenidos. As you guys can see for the title, today we're doing palette bingo with the new Huda Empowered palette. As you guys know, I like to do these palette bingos as a wrap up for a palette review. So here is the palette. I have done a whole swatch and comparison video on this palette, so if you're interested, I will put it up in the iCards. But today we are going to do a palette bingo, so if that is something that interests you, stay tuned. But first, if you're new, Alejandra, I go by Alex, eyeshadow enthusiast with a dash of Project Pan. If that is something you want to continue to see on your feed, subscribe and join us. And now let's get on with this video. Okie dokie, folks. So I have an idea of what I want to say about this palette. I have used almost everything in here. Yeah. Yes, I have used every single shadow in this palette in a look in some sort of corporation with other palettes that I'm playing around with just to give it a shot. And I have come up with quite a few different color variations in this palette. So I do have my thoughts on it. But obviously we are here for palette bingo. So what I'm going to do is bring up Pretty Random. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18. We're going to choose the shadows first, and then I'll zoom you guys in and we'll figure out the look. I'm only going to choose 4 shades. I find it so much more easier. It's easier, more put together kind of look than 5 shades. Sometimes 5 shades is a bit too much, and then it makes the whole look funky. So let's start out with the first one. Number 8, my favorite number. Ooh, no, we didn't. So we have 6, 7, 8, which is this cream shadow, which I have a lot to say about. So here is that shade. Move on to the next one. 11. Okay. So 8, 9, 10, 11, which is this matte shade. Oh, the first one was called Manifest It, and then this one is called Power. Looks like we're going for a warm look, even though I wore a cool tone shirt. Next up, number 9. Oh my goodness. Bold Moves, which is this shade right over here. Okay, and I rubbed that very lightly because that is a very, very flaky shadow. Okay, last one. Give me something dark. 14. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Which is called Rebel. Rebel. Okay. Warm tone look all the way, folks. All the way. This is going to be an easy look. So let me zoom you guys in and we'll get started. Okay, so this one's gonna be an easy look just because of the shades. So I'm gonna start out with Power, which is this shade right over here, and put it all over the crease just to make it easier. So what do I have to say about this palette? Overall, I like the palette, but I'm not in love with the palette. And without me having to say a lot of words, I've noticed that whenever I would do my eye looks with this palette, I wasn't like super excited to use it. And not because of the formula or anything. That's a little bit of it, not a whole lot of it. But it's more so of the color story. Like I'm stuck. I can't, it's either oranges or purples. Like you're stuck there. You don't have variation in here. So if you like purples and oranges, then this might be a good palette for you. The formulas are great. I am not a fan of her cream shadows. As far as those cream liners, they're supposed to be eyeliners, the purple and the black. I'm really not a fan of those at all. I've used them all over the lid and they do work, but it's very, very drying all over the lid. And they're sheer, which is a good thing because then that means that it doesn't like crease, like make lines on my eyes because I place something else on top of them. But I find them to be unnecessary. Like I don't care to have eyeliner cream shadows within my eyeshadows. I think that's silly. And she seems to throw in some sort of cream shadow in all of her palettes. And I just prefer her not to. I'm just going to be blunt and honest. Like, I don't care for that much. I'm going to go in with Rebel, which is this bottom one right here, and put it on the outer part because that's the only other matte we have going on. As far as this shade right here that we have that I'm going to be using, that is a cream, but it's creamier than the eyeliner ones. But I will say, if you go in with too much, you're going to get a lot of texture on your eyes, and it'll be difficult for you to blend it out because it does set rather quickly. It's not one of these creamy shadows that take a little bit to set. No, it sets as soon as you put it on your eyes. And I have noticed over time, as I'm using this palette more and more and more, the more I put my finger into that shadow, the drier I'm starting to feel it. Like I really got to work it in there to get it to be a little bit more emollient from when it was the first time. So I don't know if that has to do with it being exposed to the air, or it's just other powders are getting into it, or both. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that one. Mattes work beautifully. The shimmery shades work beautifully. I am not a fan of the duochrome color. This Curious shade right here, I don't really care for it. It's way too deep. It's way too black base that when I put it on my eyes, it doesn't really come out the way it's supposed to unless I wet it. And I don't care to wet my eyeshadows often. I want them to work how they work. And I felt like every time I would put it on, all I saw was purple with purple shimmers through it versus that shiftingness of it. So that's actually my least favorite shadow in here because of the way that it disappointed me. It just didn't give me that wow factor unless I wet it or put a base under it to make it more enhanced. And so it's more of a shadow that needs a little bit more help when it comes to really doing what it's supposed to be doing. So that's how I feel about that shadow. I'm like, You guys know that I am somebody who really doesn't like yellows too much. So the yellows I haven't been gravitating towards. But the mattes are beautiful. They perform really nice. As you guys can see, they blend on top of each other. They don't give me any issues. I'm not getting a lot of fallout, but I am blending and tapping off my brush. So you guys can see it does look really pretty. So the mattes really work really nicely. Shimmers is where you're getting your textures, and that's where you have to really think about it. Now, I'm going to use that shade right here called Manifest, which is that creamy shade, the one with the texture. I like it, but I just have to be very careful with how much I put on my finger. Like that's enough, and I'm just going to put it on my lid. See how like it's a drier formula, so it's already showing texture on my eyelid, see? And I barely have much on my eyes, so it's a little bit harder to smooth out. I guess it doesn't have that silicone-y base to not have it show texture. It looks smooth on my finger, but when I place it on, it just gives me some sort of texture. So just bear that in mind with this shade. It's beautiful, but it's just a little bit harder to work with. It'll work great in the summer for my oily lids though, I can tell you that much, because it is a drier texture. Okay, so now that I put that as the base, I'm gonna go in with Bold Moves, which is this one right here. I think this one's one of my favorites, but I graze over the shadow and this is what I get, and it's a lot. So what I tend to do is just like bounce it, because you guys can see how much you're gonna get. So I bounce it and try to like diffuse it a little bit with another finger, because it can be a lot. And I will diffuse this a little bit more, but I just wanted to show you guys. I'm not hating on this palette, but I'm not loving it like the other ones. And I think it has to do, one, with the color story, two, with the different textures. It just, some are really good, and then some is just like, I don't know. So I'm still messing with it. If I were to rank my large palettes like this one would probably be at the bottom, just because I just didn't click with this palette like I was expecting to click with it. I don't hate it again, and I'm not gonna return it because I do like it. It's just not my favorite. Not my favorite as far as what I'm getting out of it. Like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shades off the bat already that I'm just like, about 5 out of the 18. So for me, that's a lot. Normally it's like 1 or 2. No, there's 5 of them where I'm just like, I could have done without those 5. So I just wanted to be blunt and honest with you guys, because I know that some of you guys have been asking me about it. If you get it, I don't think you'll be disappointed if you want all that texture. Whatever's left on this brush, I'm just going on my lower lash line. But for me, I'm just like, I could have done without it. I didn't really, but I would have never known that if I didn't do it myself. Like I didn't choose it myself. But yeah. I know some of you are like, just return it, Alex, if it's not to your liking. Listen, I hate to return makeup because I know what's going to happen to it. I'm just going to grab a little bit more of that Rebel on my lower lash line. So I'd rather use it, or if it comes to a point where I really don't want it, I'll just give it away to somebody. So then that way it can be used and not be thrown in the trash. All right, you guys, there is the look. As you guys can see, it's beautiful. It's pretty, but my eyelids are looking a little bit textured because of that base. It's that base. And I try to like sheer out that Bold Moves shade, this one right here, because it can give you a lot of texture if you don't want it. Now, if that's what you're going for, then so be it. But yeah, this is what the palette looks like, just so you guys can get a refresher of it. It's beautiful. It's really nice, but you are going to be stuck with certain colors, and that's it. Purples and oranges, basically. That's what this palette is giving you. If you like purples and oranges, and both mix nice, as you guys can see, I did some of these warm with this one right here, and it just looked really nice. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I'm just not in love with it. And you guys know when I come on camera and I'm telling you guys, oh, I love it. I mean, I genuinely love it. And I'm being honest, I'm not 100% for it. I'm more than 50% liking it, but I'm not loving it. So that's where I stand with the palette. So let me put on my mascara and then wrap it up and give you guys my final thoughts. Okay, you guys, so here's my final thoughts on it. I don't want you guys to think that I'm not recommending this palette, because I feel like every palette, for the most part, there is somebody out there for it. So basically what I'm saying about this palette is, if you like the Huda Beauty formula, you're gonna like this one. It's the same as all her other larger palettes. If you don't mind cream shadows within your powders, you're gonna like this. If you like purples and oranges, you're gonna like it. If you like cool and warm tone mixed together, you're gonna like this one. If you don't mind this color story, you're gonna like it. I personally don't like every single shadow in here. So for me, that was a kind of fail, because I'm not gonna reach for this palette as a whole for what it cost me and for what it is. These 1, 2, and 3, I'm pretty sure will dry out before I even get to fully use them completely, especially this black and this plum color. These are supposed to be eyeliners. I don't care to have eyeliners in my palettes. I'll buy eyeliners if I need to, if I want them, but I'm not gonna reach for them as that. So for me, those two automatically are gone. These yellows right here, I really don't reach for them as often unless I'm going to mix them with something. So for me, those are also gone. And then this one just disappointed me because it's way too deep base, so it really doesn't show up what it's supposed to look like on the eyes. It looks like a blackened plum on my eyes, and it actually does like a shifting shade as what it's supposed to be doing. So other than that, the rest of the shadows are beautiful. I did get a really pretty color stories. I like the orangey mixed in with like the silvery shade that I have on my lids. You guys can see it's a chameleon. Right now it looks more gold because of the colors I have around it, but as you guys can see, it can go more silver if you pair it with the other shadows as well. $67 US dollars. Is it worth it to you? Is it something that's going to bring value to your collection? Is it something that you're going to reach for often and every shade? These are things you got to consider. Do I regret purchasing this palette? No, because if I didn't try it for myself, I knew that it would bother me. I wanted to give it a shot. I think overall, I will get some use out of this palette, but not what I was expecting to get use out of it. I was expecting that I was going to reach for this all the time because it is warm and cool tone. The colors appeal to me, but as I dug deeper in it and used it more often with it, I caught myself realizing that after a week of using this palette, I didn't want to reach for it anymore. Like a week's worth is enough for me. After that, I don't feel like it's that much of a versatile palette for me to continue to use it for more than a week. There's other palettes where I've reviewed and I've used them for like a month straight and I never got bored with them. With this one, I can see myself getting bored with. I could feel myself getting bored with because it's the same tone, same color story. It's not really a color story that's going to give me a lot of variety, if that makes any sense. But that's my personality, my take on it. Obviously, everyone's different. I just want you guys to be to understand where I'm coming from, because I'm not, like I keep repeating, I like the palette, but I'm not in love with it. So that's where I'm going to end it. Let me know in the comment section. Did you buy it? Did you not buy it? What are your reasons why you bought or didn't buy it? Do you love it? Do you still want to get it? It's all on you guys. I'm here to let you guys know the palette formula is great. It's just you got to consider those creamy shadows, consider how you're going to use it, consider if you like those flakiness, if you're going to work with it, when are you going to use it, so on and so forth. I will link this palette down in the description box if you are interested in getting it or checking it out on the website and reading more about it. Thank you guys so much for watching and sticking around with me. I'll put more videos on the screen for your enjoyment. Until then, adios.